I'm on, Scott. Good evening, everyone. The Grand Haven City Council, special City Council work session of March 20th, 2023 is hereby called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Fritz,
Here.
Lowe,
Here.
McLaughlin,
Here.
Cummins,
Here.
McNally.
Here. We've got a presentation this evening on Harbor Island update from HDR. And Derek, are you introducing, or? I guess Derek is.
Good evening, Your Honor, Council. Derek Gates, Public Works Director for the city. Yes, HDR is ready to present to you an update on the work that's been happening in the last few months. There was an update last week, Thursday, the BOP. They focused on a few different areas, but Lara Zawida will be on here momentarily, if we can get the Zoom to work, right?
Yep. Your co-host. Lara, can you hear us? Are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, let me
Okay,
see,
it
make
is
sure my camera
All
is
yours
on.
when you're ready.
Sorry, audio. Okay, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know why my camera is not connected. Sorry about that.
There we go.
Hey, there we go.
You're up.
Okay, you can see me, you can hear me?
You can.
Doing very good.
Okay. So I'm sharing my screen, I'm assuming, right? It's not the presentation that,
Correct. You should be able to share yours.
okay. Let me know when you can see it.
We can see it, but it's not expanded.
There you go.
Good.
Very good.
Is it? Did it come through?
Yes, it did.
We're all set.
So you're showing two slides, it looks like. Maybe.
No, that's
Is
just
that
the
one
cut.
slide?
No, it's the
Okay,
first
let me
two
know where to
slides.
start.
You're good.
No,
You're
you're good.
You're at the beginning.
You're good to go, Lara.
I can start? Sorry, you're like far away.
Nope, sorry, you're good to go.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Today I'm giving update on, since we kind of met last, on Harbor Island. So I'm going to give an update on kind of what we've done communication-wise to date, the CCR data that we have to date, the PFAS data to date, and then where we go from here, our upcoming tasks. So communication update, since November of 2022, we had the town hall meeting that we held in person on December 6th. Since then, we submitted 2 reports that are on the city website, the federal CCR report and the state CCR report. We've had the PFAS sampling event happened in November and January. The November sampling was the vertical aquifer sampling, some surface water sampling. And then the one in January, we sampled the monitoring wells, and I'll get into that later. As far as the CCR sampling, we started our first, we call them our background event to establish background groundwater level. So we started in November. in January, and in February. And these are on 5-week rotation. And then obviously today, the council update, and then we have, I provided update to the BLP last Thursday. So you're familiar with this timeline. The last time you saw this timeline, we were kind of in here. So now we moved two steps forward, which is a good sign. We've done the CCR, the 2 wells we drilled in November for the background, which is MW 33 and 34. And then we did some drilling for the PFAS. We did the vertical aquifer sampling. What the vertical aquifer sampling was for us to augment the locations that was drilled before or sampled from the BLP before, in order for us to install more permanent monitoring wells. So we did that, and now we are here. We are in the background monitoring phase. What that is over the course of the next 10 to 12 months, we'll be collecting groundwater samples from 34 monitoring wells on a 5-week rotation. So every 5 weeks, we collect a groundwater sample. And we have to collect 8 rounds of sampling in order, according to this EPA rule and EGLE rule. That's how you develop a statistical number for your background. And that number becomes your kind of background for the site. So we'll keep kind of moving forward with this timeline. But right now we are in kind of the background monitoring phase for CCR. I wanted to put this data out so you're prepared to kind of talk to the public. I shared that with our community advisory group. I shared it with BLP. I wanted to kind of explain to people, and then you can explain to your constituents, is how the data comes in and the steps that the data goes in before we can share it. It's not lack of transparency. It's not that we are not sharing the data with the public. Is that the data is not ready to be shared with the public. So, for example, our team was on site last week. They gather the data in the field. It's about 3 or 4 day effort to sample 34 wells. So they do some field measurements, they collect groundwater samples, and then they send them to Trace Analytical for analysis. Part of that data, Trace sends it to a sub-lab for radium, because Trace doesn't do radium, and that's very common of most labs. It's a very specific test. So it goes to the lab, and then we wait until the lab sends it to us. Sometimes it's 2-week turnaround time, 3-week turnaround time. The radium always lags. So we wait for the radium results to come back, and then we put all that data in our database management. Our database is basically, we start with the first sample, and then we start adding every 5 weeks. Then we sit and do data validation. This is a very tedious data exercise. We look at every number that's reported on the lab, and we make sure it's correct. If there's total, we do our own calculation to make sure it's correct. And then we may go back to the lab and say, you reported, for example, it happened on this site, they reported the radium in a negative value. Well, that never happens in our field. There's no such thing as negative value. So we had to, several communication with the lab to make sure that the data is corrected. Then we take all the data once it's been validated and we map it out. We put it on contour maps. We look at it graphically. And then if there's any statistical review that needs to happen, it happens at this step. We're not at the statistical review yet. And then we look at compare the data to background or site specific, just to get an idea if there is a well that's like out of the ordinary or if there's an anomaly. So then we take this data, we share it with the community advisory group. And then at that point, it's kind of the CAG is our first communication to the public, and then we share it with you, we share it with everybody that needs to be. At that point, it's considered public and we can share it. And then, we can probably share it with Eagle or post it on the website. But just wanted to share that it's, sometimes this can take, months for this data to be shared with the public. Just give you a CCR update. You're familiar where all the impoundments are, and where the stockpile, the coal stockpile, where the North Channel is. So this is where all the wells located. So this is, when I say the wells, this is related to the CCR because we're still has not produced one map that shows for both. So right now we're separate just because of the timing of when these wells were put in. So MW 33 and 34, these are two new wells that were drilled in the soccer field. All the wells right now have signs, so if you walk on the site, you can see which well is which. And if you remember this is kind of, we have two kind of timelines, so to speak, or infographics. The first one is kind of like a date driven. This is the process driven. So, early on when we came on board, we went through, reviewing the data, preparing the work plan, and establishing this monitoring network with the two wells that we installed. Right now, we are on this phase. We have 8 total events. We are halfway through this background monitoring phase. And every time I give you update, I will, obviously move this star to where we're at. So we've collected 3 rounds of sampling. It's actually 4, but the last one was last week. I finalized this presentation before. So we collected 4 rounds of sampling out of 8. And these are the kind of the events that we've done since September. We are working on the data validation. We just kind of finalized the issue with the radium. So we are in collecting the data. We installed the 2 monitoring wells, and we submitted the state and federal report to the regulatory agencies. We're continuing the discussion with Eagle on the ACO, and we're kind of getting close to kind of finalizing that draft ACO. And we had a meeting with Eagle, and we discussed the North Channel investigation, and I'll give an update on that here. So if you recall, with the North Channel investigation, CCR was encountered in this channel. What this channel is, there's a gate here. It's an overflow. So whenever the unit 1, 2 would overflow, gate would open, and this would be kind of its release. So you can see it kind of charted its path here. So the reason why we are investigating, so to speak, the North Channel is because, 1, CCR was encountered in that channel, and then it may impact the boundary of the CCR unit. We met with Eagle. We discussed our findings. So I don't know if you recall, but there was a plan submitted to Eagle from Golder and VLP before we took on this project. And this plan essentially said it's a visual inspection or visual observation of what's the depth and extent of CCR in this channel. And the goal is to delineate this area, so when we go out to eventually to clean it, we have an idea of what the depth and the extent of the CCR. So the plan was to collect samples and do a visual observation of the CCR along the center line, and then one on each side. If you recall, I showed you the marsh buggy and the permit that we had to obtain for us to collect these samples. So the update that we gave to Eagle, I'll kind of go over it now, and then Eagle, I think yesterday, the last couple of days, they met with EPA to discuss what basically the maps that I'm sharing with you right now. So this is a kind of a boring layout. You'll see 1M, 1R, 1L, and then if we extended kind of further. So this is the first line, second line, third line, and then right, left, and then if we saw CCR in here, you know, we went, horizontally on each side. So this is kind of the layout that we had, kind of our base scope. This shows kind of the difference. You can see the difference between this map and this map, and essentially how water really impacts the North Channel when it's dry or when it's inundated with water. So the results of, and this is kind of more recent. So this is kind of, it looked like when we were out there. So the results are, just to kind of help you read the legend. So the D is the maximum depth of CCR observed. And then T is the thickness of the CCR. So if I look at 1L here, the depth, basically the maximum depth of CCR. So we would drill through the formation, and then once we hit CCR, we start logging. Once we get out of CCR, we log it, and that number is the depth. And then, or that's the extent, the maximum extent for CCR. And then T would be the thickness of, the CCR that was observed. So the plan that was submitted to Eagle was strictly based on visual observation. So when we went out this extent, the thickness, the depth of CCR kind of went down. The thickness also went down. So when we got to this point, it started to look like mucky, it smelled like organic. It didn't look like CCR. So we stopped in the field based on the work plan, because that's what the work plan says. But when we took the samples back to the lab, or to our lab, we looked through the microscope, and these samples here showed that there is CCR. So we didn't want to just submit the report and then wait for Eagle to come back and say, you need to go out. We thought, this is a good stopping point. We can have a conversation with Eagle, get their direction. That way, if we need to go out, we can just, plan for it and submit one report that Eagle would be kind of expecting and happy with. So right now where this sits is we're waiting for Eagle to come back and give us directions of whether they want us to go kind of further if we can, or if they're satisfied with this depth, knowing that this is the limits where we would clean. We still have the permit open, so if we or Eagle, want us to go back, we can do that. I'll move to the PFAS. So we installed the vertical aquifer sampling in November. What those are is Think of them as just a sleeve that goes into the formation. Once we hit water at the depth that we want to, we just grab a water sample. And then we basically log it at that depth. So that's what we did. We did these vast samples, sent them to the lab, and the ones that we received back and we had hits of where PFAS was encountered, we went back and installed permanent water samples. We collected subsurface samples from the surface water. We collected surface samples and subsurface soil samples also in November. When we took all the data, digested it, compared it to where we have hits of PFAS, we installed 6 monitoring wells in January. So the PFAS data, the groundwater samples were collected from different locations and depth on the island during November and December, and also and that was analyzed for the different PFAS constituents. The goal was to see where PFAS is located across the island, and this is kind of important too, to distinguish between the different PFAS compounds. We will do seasonal variations of this quarterly sampling so that we can establish seasonal variability. And then right now we haven't done any interpretation of the data yet because it needs to be validated. I think I'm waiting on the validation to come in any day actually this week. So once that data is validated, we can send it to Eagle. Actually, we sent kind of a draft to Eagle just so they have an idea, but the data, once it's validated, it will be published on the MPART site as part of the site data. So the next steps, we'll sample all the wells on site quarterly. So each quarter, there'll be 6 surface water samples and 20 monitoring wells. We've done one of those sampling event for PFAS. For CCR, we'll sample every 5 weeks, the 34 monitoring wells. Our first quarterly groundwater report for 2023 will be submitted to Eagle by April 30th, and then we'll post it to the website. And then once we get directions from Eagle on the North Channel, that's another report that we will submit and to Eagle's review. I added a funding research that was probably Ashley or Derek can provide more information on that. Public meetings, we're planning a public town hall meeting mid to late August of 2023, very similar to the one that we've done before. And then our next CAG meeting will be the summer and the fall. So we'll have one around June time and one probably before the town hall. And then I'll be providing updates. I provided update to the BLP on the 16th. This is today's meeting. And then we'll have the following, the June 15th to the BLP, June 20th to the City Council, September 18th to the City Council, and then September 28th to the BLP. And that's it.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, Laura, I'm gonna actually, I think we're gonna adjourn and then go through well, let me ask. Have we got significant questions here? Karen, have you got questions? Yeah. Nope. Ryan?
Hey, just one, Lara, thank you for your presentation. So on the North Channel investigation, so did I understand right that, so essentially, Eagle may say, hey, you need to go test wider than what you've tested, because it seemed like what you were saying is that first level there, I mean, you're getting the CCR at a pretty significant depth, even on those, outer limits at, to the right and to the left. Are you saying that there may be more CCR materials on the right or left of those current testing points?
If I understood the question, so the CCR, so we stopped there because that's what the work plan says. We just had a kind of a hunch that it was an iffy material, and we just didn't want to stop there and had to come back a year later with a contractor with a big change order saying there's more CCR. So Eagle's going to come back and say, it all is driven by the limits of what they consider Unit 1, 2. There was some discussion with BLP back in the day of what's the extent of Unit 1 and 2. And so if CCR was encountered, then that includes the limit. It doesn't really apply that much to our monitoring network because we can't really put wells in the channel. So we're going to have to just draw the unit outlines, and our monitoring well network would stay the same. It doesn't really impact other than just a cleanup of that area. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a grasp on, okay, the cleanup area might be substantially broader than what it is, what was initially thought, it seems like, in that North Channel area. Is that fair?
Yes, the limit, it's kind of breaking up, but Ashley, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry if there's an echo there.
Ryan, and just clarifying that the extent of the cleanup in the North Channel could very well be broader than initially planned.
Yes, exactly. Yep, exactly.
So,
Yep.
Ryan, can I, we're gonna adjourn the work session. Sorry, Lara, we're gonna ask you if you would to stand by. We have to start our
Okay.
regular council meeting on time, and then we will continue the work session in about 10 minutes. Does that make sense?
So,
Would you please stand
do
by?
I stand by? Okay.
Just stand by on Zoom, and you'll get to see the beginning of the city council meeting. Ashley, are we good?
Yep, we'll be
All
right
right.
back, Laura.
We'll be right back, that's right. Okay. We got a couple minutes, guys. I just didn't want to get into another long question without. Meeting of Monday, March 20th, 2023 is hereby called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Fritz,
Here.
Lowe,
Here.
McLaughlin,
Here.
Cummins,
Here.
McNally.
Here. Our invocation tonight will be delivered by Pastor Nathan Strom of the Grand Haven Church of God. Would those in the audience please rise for the invocation and stay standing and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us.
Lord, we come before you this evening in gratitude for your all-encompassing grace over the city of Grand Haven. Lord, we ask right now that you would just come in this place and that you would help us as we make decisions, oh Father God, that impact this city. Father God, we ask right now that you would preserve us to be the haven for the poor and the downcast, the haven for our children and grandchildren, a haven, Father God, for all those who call this city their home. Lord, right now we ask, oh Father God, that you would give everyone in this room wisdom. Father God, that your guidance will prevail over every resolution and motion presented here tonight. Bless these commissioners, bless all these members on this Grand Haven Council. Father God, bless everyone in this city, oh Father God, and everyone right here in this room. We ask right now, Lord, you bless this city called Grand Haven. In your most precious and wonderful name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent and regular agendas for the meeting tonight.
So move. And second.
We've got one issue that we want to pull from the agenda. Ashley, can you explain?
Yeah, I'd like to request that we pull item 10F, pending further discussion with Audubon Society in regard to the agreement language.
Anybody got any reservations about that?
No, it's fine.
So Maria, will you amend the consent agenda?
Can I get a motion and a second for that?
Yeah.
Before we do that,
Yep.
if we could add in maybe a continuation of our work session before our presentations.
Yes.
We don't have that on our agenda. so-
Yes.
I'll make the motion to amend, removing item 10F and adding a continuation of our work session between the call to the audience and presentation.
And I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Maria, would you please call the roll?
Cummins,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
sorry, McLaughlin,
Yes.
McNally.
Also yes.
Oh, you get to vote twice?
Those nicknames sound alike this one.
All right, and then the approval of agendas with amendments. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. All right. At this time, we have the first call to the audience. Members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address and will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration but will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to may call in at 616-935-3285. If it continues ringing, please remain on the line until your turn. We will take all callers. This is the first of 2 opportunities at the meeting.
Good evening, Jim Hagan, 400 Lake. What I'd like to talk about is just where are we with the diesel plant contract project. January 17th, a 60-day extension was approved. Now we've gone through that 60 days. And I would like to understand, hopefully somebody during your report, you can report out what they've replied, whether they've said, yes, we're going to take this further and we're going to, use that, I assume they have 30 days after this. I'm not sure because nothing's really published on all the dates. I looked but couldn't find it. Anyway, I'd like to hear an update on it. And if they haven't finished the due diligence, I really encourage you to shut it off at this stage. I mean, it's going to be a year. When I looked in more detail at the parking on Vero Beach, we had at the American Icon Brewery, there's tremendous parking down there. They put in a big new parking lot. There's 3 parking lots, all by commercial buildings. We don't have that. When they did the spreadsheet, it was based on, I believe, 3.5 people per vehicle. The DOT says for entertainment centers, the number is 2.3. So I'm reading into everything. Everything I've seen, we're going to be way short. Down there in Florida, they've got way more. So I would encourage you not to keep extending this if they can't close it within this contract period. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Bettina Cochran, Spring Lake. I'll just read my words, that way I don't miss anything. The council didn't really ask for feedback from the community on the proposed change from one-way to two-way traffic on Franklin, but I think you need some feedback. I've emailed everyone on this board with questions and concerns about this proposed change. Most did not have an answer for the questions I asked. Mr. Cummins emailed me back and told me that the Department of Public Works Director advised that he believes there's enough space for cars to go around the traffic that will be turning left onto Franklin from Harbor Drive. He didn't anticipate any problems, and if needed, the city could just remove some parking spots. I would really hate to see the city take away parking spaces from an area that desperately needs them. Mr. or Ms. Lowe replied to my email by simply referring to me to the complete documentation on this topic located on pages 96 to 140 in the meeting's agenda packet. She stated Chief Hawk explained how this would be done on page 98, which she attached a photo of, but it does not answer the question. Mr. Fritz replied, agreeing that there are problems with the plan and stated that he voted against moving forward. Mayor McNally also emailed agreeing that there are problems with the plan and confirmed she voted against the moving forward as well. Mr. McLaughlin did not respond to my email. So I decided to email the Public Works Director directly with my concerns. On March 13th, I sent him a similar email that I sent to all of you. As of this evening, I've received no response from him. My biggest concern with this project is not so much how it will change Franklin, but how it will change Harbor Drive. Currently, South Harbor Drive is only one lane approaching the light at Franklin. What I keep asking is what's the plan to safely allow left turns onto Franklin from Harbor Drive? From what I can see, there's no plan for a dedicated turn lane from Harbor to Franklin. I would highly recommend that each of you walk out of this meeting tonight and drive down Harbor, get in the right lane where the parking spots are, because that's where you're going to have to do if you're going to turn left and go around a car that wants to turn left. Because when you do that, you're going to come face to face with concrete median. You can see it all the way from Kirby. The concrete median is in the right side. So what happens when there's festival traffic and it's confusing on a good day because of all the pedestrians and all the traffic? What happens when the out-of-towner goes around a car trying to turn left on Franklin and runs smack dab into a concrete barrier? As I said to Mr. Gayhost, and I hope I pronounced his name right, I am always in favor of good change with obvious benefits. However, I'm struggling to find benefits with this change. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Jenny White from Holland, Michigan, and I'm here on behalf of Velo Kids. We're a nonprofit organization out of Holland. Our whole goal and mission with Velo Kids is to get all kids outside and on bikes, teaching bike skills, bike safety, trail stewardship, in urban settings, and also on mountain bikes. I know that Bello Kids is listed under Section I, and if you do have any questions, I would love to, during that section, if you have any questions, I'd love to answer that. But we're excited about expanding our programming to the Grand Haven area. Last year, we biked with well over 600 kids in the Holland, in this area in West Michigan. But we're just excited about the opportunity to get more kids outside in nature, teaching them the appropriate skills for traveling in urban settings and also in our awesome trail systems. Thank you.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yep.
The write-up you had looked like it was road bikes. Are you also looking at trying to take
Nope.
mountain bikes off-road?
Nope. The only programs and events that we're currently requesting for the city of Grand Haven is urban road bikes.
Okay, that's what I
Yep.
thought. I
Yep.
just wanted to make sure.
We
Thank
do
you.
have other programming that we work with the Ottawa County Parks. So,
Perfect.
Yep, thanks.
Okay. I think we're going to end the public comment period and move on to continuation of our presentation, which brings Lara Zadewa back to talk to us from HDR to finish up on a report out on Harbor Island update.
Laura, are you still there?
I'm here.
There she is. Thank you, Lara.
We're ready for you to start
Okay,
again.
Ryan, we were
Okay.
at your end. Have you got any further questions? I don't think so. Okay.
Let me share my screen again.
So Lord, the North Channel work, is that obviously going to be outside of the scope that was originally presented to us?
What was the question? Outside the scope?
Yeah, the additional work that you're doing in the North Channel, is that an additional scope item? Is it outside the scope of the work that you've already, identified?
No, it was the original task that we've done, which we had a contingency that we have not used. The way that the BLP and Golder submitted the plan is we have the base boring and then there was a contingency. So we had a contingency, but we don't have it. We have it with the driller, like if we needed to go and ask the driller to do more, we have the vehicle to do it, but we would need to come back and ask for additional funds to kind of go further. We just asked the city for the base scope, not a contingency. It's kind of laid out in our proposal, but we didn't ask for the money at that time because we didn't know if we're going to need it or not. We're going to wait to hear from the EPA, and then if we do, then we can, from Eagle and the EPA, and if we need to extend, then we will come back and ask for those funds.
Thank you.
Laura, I want to say thank you for the update and that. Everybody's anxious, and we know it's going to take a lot of time, so just sit back and wait and get the results back. That's all we can do right now. So thank you again for you guys' hard work, and keep doing what you're supposed to do. Follow through.
Laura, I had just a couple questions. I know it's early days, and you don't have a lot of basis for comparison, but did you find anything out there you didn't expect to find at this point?
On the what? I'm sorry.
Did you find anything out there that you did not expect to find?
I shouldn't say that we found anything that we didn't expect. We knew going in that we are going to find areas of PFAS. Now it's just digesting the data and seeing if we can find kind of the, what the source is. But we knew going in that we found PFAS. I can't speak on the level based on the Eagle yet because we haven't validated the data, and I don't want to speak before we do that data. So I wouldn't say that surprises. No, there's no surprises.
Okay, how about, can you explain radium and how we end up, we're testing for radium out there? Is that naturally occurring? Is it a waste product of the coal ash is,
Of the coal ash, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's one of the appendix, they call them Appendix 4 constituents of concern for CCR. So every CCR site tests for radium.
Okay.
It's not specific to Harbor Island.
okay, thank you. And then,
Boron, lithium, kind of your metals. There's some other constituents, but it's a list that is in the rule of the CCR and Eagle Part 115.
okay, thank you. And have we had enough sampling rounds to tell at this point whether there's significant variation, like month to month or quarter to quarter?
So I'll speak for the CCR. The CCR rule, the EPA and the Part 115 is statistically driven. So you would have to establish a statistical set of data. So you have to do 8 in order to do a statistical comparison, whether you use like a different statistical, like a 99% upper limit or a 95. So there's I'm not going to speak for a statistician, but they compare that data, whether they compare each data to the average or they pull the data and compare it to the average. So so that's kind of how you do it. It's 8 samples every 5 weeks. So they don't want you to go 8 days in a row and establish that data set. So the practice is to at least 5 weeks and establish that data set. For the PFAS, we do the data, the seasonality. I think it's a practice with all the content, because if you have a low water table, but you have contamination in the soil, you may miss that soil water interface. So we do the seasonality just to make sure that if there's any contamination in the soil and water, is at a high level or a low level, you'll be able to kind of discuss that data with the regulators in more confidence that you've kind of caught that seasonal variability.
Okay, thank you very much. Ashley, do you have anything you
You
want to
bet.
ask? Nope. Anybody got anything else? We very much appreciate your work and your report, and we'll be talking to you soon, I'm guessing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, presentation by Eric Booth, from the Board of Light and Power on their sustainability update. Welcome, Eric.
Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna have to apologize up front. My kid's cat is giving me fits with my allergies, so
Oh,
I'll make it through this. But I appreciate Ashley asking us to come in here and speak. We've been attending the Community Sustainability Committee's Energy Task Force meetings over the past 5 months. And Ashley said something at the last meeting, kind of stuck with me, and she said, we need to celebrate our wins as a community, and I agree with that. That's good advice, good leadership. And I also got to thank John Nash and Nancy O'Neill, who are members of your Energy Task Force, because the feedback, and we've only been staff liaisons, just answering questions as they have them, taking their feedback as they give it to us, but they've given us some really good feedback, and one of it is, we've been answering their questions, but they said we're kind of having a hard time pulling it all together and what it means and how we really determine as a community what steps we've taken for sustainability. And that's good counsel too, because we're not that great at communicating that. We do our projects, we move on to the next project, and so we put together this document that's in front of you tonight, and they were the origin of it, really. It was feedback from them on trying to put something together so the community can kind of get their head wrapped around sustainability, at least from the utility perspective. What has the utility done up to this stage so that they can decide where we need to go in the future? And so the first portion of the document is our energy waste reduction and energy optimization initiatives, and we've been doing that for quite a long time. And we've pooled our resources with 17 other municipal utilities, ones that are smaller like us, that can't afford staff to do it entirely on its own. And we use a company called Franklin Energy, and they've really gotten good over the past decade. I mean, this is definitely their strength. And the partners that also use them are Bay City, Harbor Springs, Petoskey, Lowell, Portland, Hart, Paw Paw, and Zeeland, just to name a few, utilities about our size. And this program started in 2008 with a state mandate, and it required all electric utilities, independently owned utilities, co-ops, and municipalities to achieve a 1% savings per year in energy waste reduction or energy optimization. And that may not seem like a lot on a year-per-year basis, but you got to take into account that these are cumulative effects. So small steps taken incrementally over a long period of time can have some really impressive results, and that's what we're seeing. The law sunset for municipalities and co-ops at the end of 2021. Most of us, with the exception of a few, have stayed in the program. But the nice thing is, with the mandate lifted, the thresholds or the restrictions have kind of lifted too, so it's given us a flexibility we've never had in the past. And so for this past year, we've put most of our efforts into the street lighting program, and we were only limited to how much we could do in the past, and so why would we do that? Last year we put $100,000 into street lights. We changed out 200 175-watt mercury vapor fixtures, and we replaced them with 60-watt LED fixtures. And the reason we did that is because you guys pay the bill. The taxpayers pay the bill for that energy. So not only can we give a benefit to the electric ratepayers by reducing energy, but we can offer the municipalities a break in that frees up their money to do other things for whatever initiatives you have as a city, or Grand Haven Township, or Spring Lake, or Ferrysburg. That's the benefit of being a municipality. We think like that. The next step is our diversified power supply portfolio. And oh my gosh, have we talked a lot about this, but what does it really mean, and what have we done with this diversification? I mean, we moved away from a single source fossil fuel generating asset, and now we're in this market. And the benefit is we've been able to increase our renewable portfolio significantly since the closure of Sims. Where we were stagnant at about 8%, and this is not that long ago, 2016, we were at 8% renewables. Today we're at 22%, and in a couple months, the Invenergy Calhoun project is going to go online, and at the end of this year, we're going to be at about 26% renewables. So just like with your investment portfolio, I know people want us to move deeper into renewables faster, but we have to keep up with the market, but not try to get too far ahead of the market, right? We want to treat it just like you would your 401k or your Roth IRA. We want to spread our investments across many different buckets, and we don't want any to ladder in too quickly, and we don't want any to ladder off all at the same time in the future. So it's not just it's not just a decision about today. We got to think of future utility managers 15, 20, 25 years from now, because that's in large part how long some of these contracts are. Now, if it's not quick enough for some people, you have the option through, and this is a state mandate, the Green Energy Rider program. So all utilities are required to offer a program to where customers can buy more renewable energy if they so choose to do so. How it works is when a renewable project generates a megawatt hour of energy, they get a renewable energy credit. And so if you wanted to go carbon neutral today for your house, you can. And it's not that expensive. It's less than $5 a month, because remember, we're already providing 25%. And so they've only got to make up the difference. And in the future, as that continues to grow, they can back down what they're buying with renewable energy credits. And we have seen an uptick in people signing up to this program. So for companies like Shape and JSJ and GHSP, or even local commercial establishments, restaurants or bars, if they want to go to a higher level of renewables, what they're finding is it's hard for them to partake in their own generation, right? It's expensive. And they're looking for quicker paybacks than those projects give. And so what we've told them is we're going to increase our portfolio as we go forward, but if you need to move quicker than the market's allowing us to move, then buy RECs. That's the way to do it, and that will drive up the price of RECs, and that will incentivize more investments. So when we presented this document to the Sustainability Committee, they were happy. They were pleased to see. They thought it was in a format that really shows just the steps Grand Haven has been taking. And I mean, for a sleepy little municipal utility, we have been making some really big moves. And we're seeing some really good results. So it's good. I agree with Ashley. We got to celebrate our wins when we have them as a community. And so I appreciate her suggesting we come here tonight, and happy to answer any questions, and happy just to drop this off with you if that's all you'd like.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Sure.
Karen?
Oh, sure. Eric, first of all, thank you. This is really well done, concise, easily, digestible, and I totally agree in terms of looking, celebrating it. And when you look at the past several years, as you said here, made huge strides. And so everyone at the BLP should be very proud of what's been done. The question I have is, it's always dangerous. I get articles and I start reading them, and I started to look at, and this is very timely because one of the articles was, and I'll get to my question in all of this. One of the articles was looking at what Consumer Energy and DTE are doing relative to the Michigan Healthy Climate Plan and sort of the focus on 60% renewables by, is it 2030? Is that the goal, right?
That's what they're saying.
That's what yeah. And the article I read, well, it talked a little bit about my question around Consumers Energy and DTE. I was a little confused at the graph because I didn't think they included landfill gas additions in that. They were looking at just, I could be wrong, wind, solar, and hydro as their renewable sources. So that's question number one, will be about that, how we compare. And then the article is really focusing on Traverse City Light and Power, which I thought, wow, that's really cool, cool, because they're kind of western Michigan. And they had some pretty audacious goals. So I'm going to throw them out here, but all I'm going to do is encourage the BLP to be big and audacious, because this is a part of what we want our community to be from environmentally. I think this is a big strategic pillar around energy, as evidenced by us creating a sustainability and energy. And I think, so anyway, I looked in, Traverse City Light and Power is hoping to get to 40% by 2025 and 100% by 2040, and you may not know this already. So all I would want to throw back is, hey, you guys have done awesome.
Thank you.
Now, set some really big, audacious goals and go after this, because you'll have the support of the community in trying to get there. And my experience has been, Eric, is that when you set really big goals, it forces the really bright people on your team to think out of the box and think, wait a minute, how can we get close there? And even if you don't hit the target, you'll get a lot farther than if you set something that you think is way achievable. So I'll throw that out there. Congratulations. It looks like a good report, but look ahead.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ryan? Yes, thank you, Eric, for the materials, and it's nice to hear an update related to some of the work that's going on, partnership with the Sustainability and Energy Commission that we have doing all kinds of different subcommittee work, it sounds like. So, and I agree. I think there's been, significant progress, and it's good to celebrate those wins. In regards to Franklin Energy, so, that was a good update related to the street lighting. Is there any, okay, we get past the street lighting phase, do we have some opportunity to use Franklin Energy with, energy optimization and waste reduction with residential customers, not just commercial customers?
Yep, so that program got put on hold for 2022 while we funneled the funds into the street lighting program, because we felt that was a way to help all residents and all businesses and all municipalities. But we instituted them this year, since in the next year or so that LED conversion is going to wind down. And it is hard to get parts. You order things and it's taking a little longer. So we reinstated the residential program, but that's been in effect for the last 10 years. And we actually do have a lot of takers. If you change out your air conditioning unit, your stove, your fridge, dehumidifier, there's rebates associated. And one thing that David Mann gave us, that was a really great idea. We hadn't thought of it before. This is the benefit to attending these meetings, because they come up with some fantastic ideas, and sometimes it just doesn't take a lot of work to implement them, is to provide the rebate notices to Home Depot. Because at Home Depot, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you buy something there, you got to pay $50 to have them remove your old stuff. We will pay you $50, and we will come and pick it up. So it works well for Home Depot. They don't have to schedule it. They don't have to charge you. And it works well for us because it helps us achieve our numbers, and you get $50 in your pocket. So, yes, the residential program is back, and it's in full force, and you can get on our website right now and find out what rebates are available.
But beyond that, so that's good to hear that that's back, 'cause actually I just did a furnace replacement, and I didn't get any benefit out of the BLP on that one, but that's okay. That's all right. I know there's priorities, but but beyond that, is there a more proactive program that Franklin Energy has to actually, if you're a homeowner and say, hey, I want you to come in and take a look at, where am I losing energy at inside my home? Give me, audit me, tell me what I can, improve. Is there that?
They're looking at pilot programs. The struggle that we're having, and we've been talking a lot with Holland and Traverse City, who do have home energy audit programs, but the problem is they're kind of expensive, and if the people don't take advantage of them, like if they don't make an investment, then there's really no savings there. So Franklin's trying to come up with a way to put some skin in the game for the customer, as in the customer pays to do the audit, and if they implement something, then they're given a rebate. But they're looking into that. That's not an area they've delved into. They're looking at virtual audits. I'm not sure I'm that excited about that prospect. I think it's costly. I don't think they get the benefit they need. I think for a customer to come in, you want to find out how airtight your home is, right? To find out if you need insulation or windows. Now, that doesn't really necessarily work for the utility, but it does work for the gas company, right? It would help save you money in gas. It'll help save you a little bit in air conditioning, but we're not Arizona, so we don't have our AC on quite that much. But I appreciate what you're saying, Councilman Cummins. They are looking at different pilot programs, because you're right, the well runs dry at some point, and you got to come up with something new.
Yep. Thank you for that. And just follow up on Councilmember Lowe's comments about goals. I mean, maybe we have a goal. Is there a goal that's in place that says by a certain date we're looking to be, carbon neutral or have so much of our portfolio be renewable? I mean, is there a date that we could tell folks, hey, this is what, I get that you're kind of watching the markets and don't want to go too fast, obviously don't want to be too slow either. Is there a date that you think is reasonable to say, hey, this is a date that we can, be confident in?
It's a good question, and it's a good point, right? We've been watching Traverse City, and they have set some really big goals, but we're also watching some of those utilities struggle with having made really large investments in Bell River and Campbell. Mm-hmm. Traverse City's one of them. Holland's another one. Lansing's another one. And so they're seeing these really large assets drop off at one shot, and they're going right back into the same type of philosophy. And so the word I'll give you is balanced. We want to increase our renewables, but we're going to do it, evaluate the effects, and balance it out. So we have been hesitant, and I would not recommend just setting a goal. I would move with the markets. The EIA is publishing what the national average is. We've said we're going to stay with that national average. We're a little bit ahead, but not so far that I think we're getting too far ahead of it. Because as these technologies come out, you would think the prices will go down, right? We know they have with solar. We know they have with wind. And so we don't want to end in a position like we were with the landfill gas, where we went real deep in it, and that's at $109 per megawatt hour, where the average market price, well, not last year, it was pretty high, but now it's settled down into that mid-40s range. And so it's tempting to want to do it, to try to satisfy people, but I don't think that's the right plan. I really don't. We're watching other utilities struggle with that mentality, but it sounds good, right? It gets people comfortable, and they're happy and excited with the goals. Saying that you want to balance your plan and move incrementally, that's not as sexy, I know, but I think that's the right long-term strategy, and that's the game we play, is the long game. So no, we haven't set a goal. Could we get pushed down that road? We could. We've just been hesitant to do it. Do I think there will be a time where that happens? Yeah, probably, at some level.
Right. Well, I'd rather, you know, I think that's something that warrants some further discussion, probably with our
I would agree with
Sustainability and
that.
Energy Commission. You know, it's probably the best place to have some of those deeper dives into that. But I think it's a worthy discussion, and, you know, I prefer to be a leader, maybe not the one that's out there the most, but I think it's worthy of a goal to work towards, you know, even if it's not, you know, maybe as aggressive as some others have set. And at some point, I mean, obviously, the state set us all down a certain path at one point and said, what, 10% at one point, and that was what we all had to work towards, and obviously we've exceeded that, and I would venture to guess that another goal like that will be coming at some point and be mandated upon us, but I'd rather us be saying that we're doing what we need to do. We don't need Band-Aids. We're willing to work in that direction as it is. But
Yeah, I can easily say we do not require mandates. We will be investing more in renewables. They are good products, and we will stage them in to make sure that our entire portfolio is well balanced.
fair enough.
Kevin?
Just thank you for the information, and thank you for working with the committee. I know that's, you know, we were all very, very supportive of creating that committee, and I'm glad you're working so closely with them. It's great for the community.
It's good for us, too.
Thank you. Yeah, Eric, I just want to tell you, thank you for doing a presentation here and letting the people out here know, being on TV here pretty much, and also on the radio and that. People get an understanding what the BLP is really doing and get a good picture of it. We've done some stuff we've done in the past that we bought into, you know, the BLP has bought into, and it didn't pan out. So being slow and cautious and getting into the right markets and moving forward, as long as we keep moving forward, we're okay. Some baby steps are okay, because that way you get sustainability, it lasts a lot longer, and we can get a good investment out of it. So I really say thank you for you guys for what you're doing out there. You're doing a fantastic job, and just keep going forward. So thank you again.
Thanks.
Thanks very much, Eric. I think that I'm a fan of balance. I'm a fan of goals, but I'm a fan of balance, and I think that at the end of the day, we need to make sure that in addition to being sustainable, our power supply is affordable and reliable. So I think that those are kind of your marching orders, and leaning into sustainable it sounds like is a general sense at this bench.
Three legs of the stool: reliability, affordability, sustainability. It's what we're balancing out.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Going to ask Maria to read the consent agenda, please.
Item A, approve council special work session meeting minutes of February 20 and March 6, and regular council meeting minutes of February 20 and March 6, 2023. B, approve the bills memo in the amount of $1,947,708.78. C, approve the emergency purchase from the King Company, Holland, Michigan, for repairs to the Harbor Island boat launch in the amount of $49,800. D, accept the low bid and approve the contractor's service agreement from Matson Landscaping, Inc., Grand Haven, Michigan, for tree planting 2023 in the amount of $29,980, and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the necessary agreements. E, approve the low bid from Core and Main, Kentwood, Michigan, for city water system materials in the not-to-exceed amount of $26,995.19. Item F has been removed. Item G, approve a special event request to hold the East End Beer and Mac and Cheese Festival in Bolt Park on Saturday, March 13, 2023, from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. to allow consumption of alcohol during the event, and to apply a $500 discount to the park rental fee as outlined in the City of Grand Haven's special event policy. H, approve a special event request to hold the summer reading kickoff party in Central Park and on 4th Street between Columbus and Fulton on Saturday, June 3, 2023, from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m., and to apply a $500 discount to the park rental fee as outlined in the City of Grand Haven's special event policy. I, approve a special event request to hold the Velo Kids Bike Camp on Harbor Island on Monday, June 5 through Wednesday, June 7, 2023, from 9 a.m. until noon, and community rides May 24 and 31st from 6 to 7 p.m., and to apply up to a $250 discount to the park rental fee as outlined in the City of Grand Haven special event policy. J, approve a special event request to hold the Walk the Beat Rick Van Meelden free concert in East Grand River Park on Saturday, June 17, 2023, from 2 p.m. until 5 p.m., and apply up to a $500 discount to the park rental fee as outlined in the City of Grand Haven special event policy. K, consideration by City Council of a resolution to award the South Pier Entrance Light Concrete Restoration Project to Smith's Waterproofing of Imlay City, Michigan, and the not-to-exceed amount of $212,465, with all matching funds to be reimbursed by the Grand Haven Lighthouse Conservancy, and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the necessary agreements.
Thank you, Maria. Can I get a motion to the effect to,
So moved. Second?
to approve the consent agenda as amended? Motion by Fritz, second by Cummins. Is there any discussion? Would you please call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. Okay, moving on to new business, item A. Maria, would you read it for us?
Consideration by City Council of a resolution to apply for a 2023 Michigan Department of Natural Resources Land and Water Conservation Fund grant in the amount of $293,950 with a local match of $293,950 for improvements to the dugouts, fencing, bleachers, and parking lot at Sluka Field, and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the necessary agreements. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there support?
Second?
Discussion? The only point I wanted to make was, I was kind of shocked by how the prices went up.
Yeah.
And scandalized might be might be the word, because this was something we looked at last year, and it's almost 1.5 times what it was last year. So I know there are shortages of materials. I know all material prices have gone up. So I'm confident this is a good estimate of what it'll cost. But if we live in this construction arena going forward, I can see that we're going to be really challenged.
Yeah, but everything's gone up, and so I'm not shocked at anything anymore. Being in the business I'm in, I can always tell you that paint increases have been, let's see, I've had 30% last year, I had another 10% the last 2 months, and they're saying there's going to be another 10% on top of that.
Well,
So,
Mike, I'm not saying I don't
so-
believe
but it's-
them.
it's
I
gonna
believe
ha-
them. I'm just very
everything's
sad
gone up,
about it.
so this is a good park anyways. I'm all for this, because the fact is, if you've been out there, it gets a lot of use. There's a lot of kids out there, and which is really nice to see. When you see a park nowadays and you see kids outside and they're using it, it's a good investment for us.
I concur. Anybody got anything else? Maria, would you please call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. New business item B. Maria, would you read it?
Approve change order 002 for task order 004 with HDR of Michigan and the not-to-exceed amount of $39,451 for continued general coordination, advisory updates, and community action group coordination, and approve a budget amendment transferring $39,451 from the American Rescue Plan Act funds to the Harbor Island Brownfield Fund, and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the necessary agreements. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there support?
Second?
Discussion?
Derek, is this gonna just continue?
Yes, Derek Gates, Public Works Director for the city. Yeah, last March, we entered into contract with HDR, and our time of all the coordination and the meetings is, those funds are running dry. So, we planned the community outreach, the CAG meetings, the update meetings, town hall meetings. And this is the cost of doing business with the firm. So, as you can see tonight, Lara's presentation and keeping us in the loop very well. That we gotta pay at some point. So trust me, I've tried to keep those costs as low as possible. But we actually in this portion, in task order 4, the original cost was that we asked them to do was in the 150 or 180,000. We cut that by over a third. And so now we can't, we're not going to do that. And so we've done a lot of this stuff in-house, but this is just the work that we can't do without them.
And the reason why I ask is, I just remember in some meetings, we said, is there any more funds that are going to be required in the future? And it was kind of, don't worry, I think we got everything covered, but this just kind of showed up.
Well,
that's why I was wondering.
No, I agree. These are the funds that are going to run through the end of the year. So in January of next year, we'll be looking to continue to fund the actual cost. So it's not a never-ending, 2027, they'll be all done.
Yeah.
But they've done great, and I support them in this change order.
Oh, I'm not questioning that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So for the community advisory group, just to give us a little bit of a flavor of, because it seems like, that's a huge chunk of cost, and I understand, why that was formed, and for good reason, but, it's, updating us as a council, the Board of Light and Power, although I'd like to see the Board of Light and Power, if they want separate updates, that they pay for separate updates. Otherwise, I think we should be getting joint updates. I don't know what the cost is to separately present to them and us. I think that's kind of duplication that if they want that, so perhaps we can discuss that amongst our boards. But the community advisory group, their hours are almost double the updates to us, to the Board of Light and Power, and conducting kind of these town halls. So that seems how long are those community advisory group meetings? What kind of information are they getting? That's that much more extensive than what the council's getting. Jim's shaking his head. He's on it. So I assume it's probably still pretty high level information.
Well, for instance, I think the amount of time that we spend in the CAG group, or we plan it actually, is like 2 hours. So like tonight's half-hour presentation, or the half-hour presentation at the BOP board last Thursday. Mm-hmm. There's also communication that goes back and forth between those members, a lot more than let's say the council or the BLP board. So there's also responding to those inquiries.
And prep time for the meetings and things like that.
Absolutely.
And that one's also intended to be even more so a give and take for feedback as far as how information is being communicated, more of a two-way conversational meeting with, again, give and take, but to give HDR direction on how to communicate to the public, and HDR to give information to the CAG to communicate to the public. So it's just a little more of a workshop kind of feel to it than just a straightforward presentation.
Yeah, and the 12 or 14 members on that action group, they're members from all over our community and all different walks and professions. So they've been really helpful in helping us guide, hey, the public, what about this and what about that? And so we've some definitions, questions on that, some updates to our website. Hey, what do you think about this? Or even some of the data that's starting to roll out.
Yeah, no, I'm not questioning the good work, and I think it's a worthy endeavor, and it's good to have that sounding board. I just didn't quite understand why it was that many more hours. And how long would this last for?
This will take us to the end of the year.
I think when it comes down to it is transparency costs.
Yeah, it sure does.
And we have to make decisions about how we balance those values. saving money versus trying to get information out into the community. And I think the staff has done the best they can, so I support the recommendation.
Yeah, I think we talked about this, one of our, the things that was important, at least to me, when evaluating HDR's proposal was sort of their communication. And our citizens want to be engaged. This is very, very important, regardless of politics. People are very concerned about what we're going to do for Harbor Island. So I think an exceptional job has been done to date. I wouldn't want to, I would want to continue with that citizen advisory group, because I think it has been effective in sort of keeping people from coming here and saying, we don't know what's going on. So anyway, I'm supportive of it, and I agree with Mayor McNally. Transparency and inclusion of our community in something this important, will cost a little bit, but I think it's well worth it to make sure that we bring the community along with what we're doing out there.
Okay, anything further?
No, I'm just gonna say amen. I agree with both of you guys, and I tell you, we need to be transparent. We need to be letting people know exactly what's going on, and having these updates like this makes people understand what's really going on. It's gonna take time, and that's what it is, and if it's what it is, they come back, give us a report on where they're at periodically, so we understand then. So this is like you say, it costs us, yes, but it does. But the thing of it is, we're being more transparent. We're letting them know what they know, exactly what we know. There's nothing anymore, so that's good. It's a good point for us. So thanks.
Thank you. Maria, would you please call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. Okay, moving on to item 12, unfinished business. Item A. Maria, would you please read it?
Consideration by City Council of an introductory resolution to amend Chapter 20, Section 20-2 of the City of Grand Haven Code of Ordinances by amending residency requirements for Human Relations Commission members. Human Relations Commission recommends approval. Administration recommends approval.
So move.
And second.
Any discussion?
This was the one where you, Your Honor, you got involved in trying to correct sort of some concerns that you had within the ordinance. Is that right?
Correct.
Right. And so is that the highlighted part? Is that what's been,
It's been rewritten, Karen.
exactly, is that the highlight
I
part in
don't
the?
know whether it's highlighted, to tell you the truth.
The document attached doesn't have any highlights, but it's page 161 within the packet, rewritten, reorganized, I should say,
Oh, sorry.
as suggested at the previous meeting. No content change otherwise.
The structural problem, in my view, was that in the ordinance that was sent the first time round, it had a first paragraph that talked generally about the composition of the commission. Then it had a second paragraph that talked about students. And then it had a third paragraph that seemed to apply to both of the foregoing paragraphs, but it didn't logically connect to the student section. The student section is separate from the other requirements. So essentially what I did, I tweaked it a little in a couple of places, but mostly I took the third paragraph and bumped it up so it was in the first paragraph and therefore related only to the first paragraph and not to the section, the paragraph that that pertained to the student members of the Human Relations Commission. Other than that, and actually, we'd left out in the first proposal, there was a phrase that was something about a broad cross-section of the community. And I put that back in because it's in the original language of the Human Relations Commission ordinance. I thought it reflected what this council would want and had been left out as an omission. But other than that, the text is tweaked a little with some punctuation and restructured so that it makes more sense.
Okay, I've read it, it sounds
Sounds
very
good.
similar, yeah. I'm okay with all that.
Anything else?
No.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes?
Lowe,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. Okay, report by city council. Karen, you got anything?
Yes, I should have asked, just backing up one, we've already passed it, but I presume that the Human Resource Commission also reviewed your changes.
I have no idea, and I would not presume that.
Yeah, they're up to speed on the corrections.
Okay, thank you, Ash.
Karen, you have anything to report?
I do, but I'd like to give someone else a chance to go first.
I'm gonna start
For-
down that end
How
for
about
now.
you, Mike?
Oh, yeah, I don't mind going first.
Thank you.
Let's see, the Tigers will be starting to be moving up north pretty soon, so baseball season will be upon us. And the storms, well, they come and go. I gotta say thank you to the city of Grand Haven getting out there and salting right away and making sure the roads were safe for us to drive on. We didn't have a 150 car pile up here in Grand Haven, so we did fine. That's all.
I'm good.
Don't wanna say much more.
Okay. Karen?
Oh, sure. So, I just wanted to report off, on March 9th, I was invited to and attended a virtual meeting with members of state and local government from 48 of the 50 states, and it was sponsored by the Council on Foreign Relations. And one of their objectives was to look, the speaker was really focused on how do we start at the local level in getting people from polarized views to talk to one another. And the author Richard Haas spoke about the Bill of Obligations, 10 Habits of Good Citizens. And I just, wanted to share a couple things because I thought it really resonated with me as it relates to our local government and how we need to not just look at what our rights are. In fact, one of the statements was that the toughest things, the cases that come before the Supreme Court are not, and certainly the most difficult ones, aren't right versus wrong, they're right versus right. And that really resonated with me, particularly with councils. A lot of times, the things that come before council that we debate, it's not a right versus wrong, it's a right versus right and trying to figure out what is the best way to go. Well, a couple things that the author stated was that, the Bill of Rights is at the center of our Constitution, but we also have, so there's citizens' rights, but there's also citizen obligations, such as being informed, getting involved, staying open to compromise, remaining civil, and promoting the common good. And the one that really resonated with me on that was staying open to compromise, because compromise has become a bad word these days. And anyone who has been married 30 years or more, like my husband and I, know that every day in those 30 days there are compromises. Sometimes he gives more, sometimes I give more. Life is, compromise, and that's how we kind of move forward as society, is listening to one another and at times making little compromises as a way to move forward. So I thought I'd just share that with you because I thought it was a really good message for us at the local level. The other thing that I wanted to share in advance of our special work session that we're going to be holding next month on the budget, regarding budget, I wanted to make a statement just about our role as elected officials. As elected officials, we have a fiduciary responsibility to provide oversight of management. And our job, as you can see here tonight, is not to rubber stamp things or make things easy on poor Ashley and our finance director, because that would be a clear dereliction of duty as elected officials and per our charter. When we raise questions in any kind of public meeting like this, or express some concerns about cost of consultants or, any kind of financial concerns, that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing. Questions are not an act of disrespect or trust for our management team. It's really more that we can act on your behalf and better understand and make better decisions. And I would say that those of us, we have an incredible city manager and a finance director who actually keep us well informed. And when we have questions, or at least I know as an individual council member, when I have questions, I can call them and they can answer some of my concerns if I have them well before the meeting. So if we're more thoroughly informed and we've had our concerns addressed, we'll naturally have fewer questions. I just don't want anyone to come away with anything out of a work session or out of any city council meeting that there's any kind of lack of trust when we ask questions about cost or scrutinize. That's our job, and we're doing that on behalf. And so nothing should be read into it. And I know you don't take any of that, nor does Emily personally, but nothing should be misconstrued. It's really us seeking to understand and act on your behalf. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ryan?
I'm good. I think, Ashley, you were going to touch on the diesel plant tonight, right? Okay, so I'm good then. Yep.
I got one thing, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
I did sit in on a diversity training that Ashley put together for the senior staff, and it was conducted by Dr. McMullen out of Muskegon Community College, and it was on implicit bias training, and it was excellent. He did a wonderful, wonderful job, and I want to compliment Ashley on putting that together. I think the more that type of training can be brought into the staff and ultimately to the community, I think it's a great idea. But thank you for that. I even got my little certificate.
He's a graduate, that's good. Okay, I had some feedback from a constituent asking, who knows we meet regularly with the state park, and this information is a little bit late because we're about to meet with the state park again tomorrow?
Next week.
Next week, okay, next week. But the feedback was, I know you meet regularly with the state park, and I wonder if you could, or Ashley could, summarize what's been passed by the state park for the city's consumption. And it occurred to me probably everybody here would be interested in it, and possibly people out there would be interested. So I just summarized notes I had from the state park meeting, and there were some items of interest, I thought. The state park reports that they intend to observe the same hours of operation this coming summer as they did last. If you'll recall, that was a compromise that involved closing the parking lot at 10 p.m., but allowing those already in the parking lot to remain until 11. The park staff reported they thought these steps cut down on some of the late night parking lot cruising that caused issues in the neighborhood, and they also indicated they handed out about 20 careless driving tickets last summer, which further discouraged aggressive driving at the park. The state park is working on a public address system for the beach that they hope will enhance beach safety. If there's a problem on the beach, it can be communicated quickly to folks there, as can requests for cooperation or help. We discussed our hope that any system they install shows respect for the incredible aesthetics and sightlines along our beach. The state park is working to replace windows that local residents have voiced concerns about because of light pollution, and which don't apparently provide sufficient privacy for the restrooms. They're hoping to install tinted windows, but need the approval of the State Historic Preservation Officer with whom they're working. Their event planning has already started for the 4th of July and Coast Guard Saturday. They said their staff funding arrived earlier than usual, so they're looking forward to getting some good projects done in the preseason. The state park director was actually, our state parks director was showing off a private company's calendar of Michigan's most beautiful state parks that he found at a state park conference. The calendar's cover and its July page were a locally produced photo of our beach, lighthouse, pier, and catwalk. So of the most beautiful state parks in Michigan, Grand Haven was the jewel. Let's see. And then I just wanted to report I attended 2 excellent events this weekend. The first was the St. Patrick's Day celebration Friday night at the American Legion. The place was packed. The theme was green and family friendly, and there was an incredible strings band from the high school called GOTAC that provided some rippin' fiddlin' music, not to mention viola, bass, guitar, vocals, and bodhrán, or Irish drum. I just wanted to say how inspiring it was to hear a group of, I don't know, maybe 40 students from our school having so much fun and having such a connection to their music and each other. I commend their music teacher. She's clearly a gifted educator and musician, though her jokes were a little bit droll and got a lot of groans. The second event I attended was a fundraiser for the Tri-Cities Museum, which was in its own right, as it was billed, educational and enthralling. The museum staff took a small group through the museum's archives and treasure trove. Picture the large warehouse full of wooden crates at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It turns out the Tri-Cities Museum has a similar facility south of town. The staff pulled out a dozen treasures from the collection to highlight some of the unique and important and quirky treasures in the collection, and talked about their preservation work and about virtual access they've built for anyone interested in their collections who's doing research. It was a very interesting afternoon. At our last meeting, I encouraged everyone to consider a donation to support restoring the deteriorated basketball court in East Grand River Park. Ryan Vriedeveld, superintendent at the Grand Haven Spring Lake Sewer Authority, is spearheading the project, and it's receiving significant community support. Well, I thought I'd let you know I put my money where my mouth is and bought 2 bricks for the fundraising effort. I looked for some basketball quotes I might put on the bricks and found 2 that spoke to me. The first is from Magic Johnson, a man I admire for a variety of reasons, including his basketball prowess. He said, "All kids need is a little help, a little hope, and somebody who believes in them." The second quote is from Coach Tom Izzo and is a little more direct, as you might expect. His quote is, "Wimps go up to rebound with 1 hand, not 2. So I'm putting both those on bricks and and slapping them into East Grand River Park, I hope. And I'm just encouraging anybody else who's out there to consider doing the same. And then I wanted to brag on the Spartans, who are in the Sweet 16, which is makes me very happy. But I think with the year that Michigan State has had this year, it is a tribute to the kids, the courage of the kids who are playing on that team, and also, I think, to the community that's supporting them. So, go green.
Go away.
Yes.
That's all I've got. Ashley, you're up.
So first and foremost, I just wanted to give a little bit of a grant update publicly. A number of those grants listed on that slide have come before you relatively recently. And we received word back that we were fully funded for all 3. So the Community Energy Plan, the task force has been hard at work. They received $25,000 from the Community Foundation, as well as the $25,000 they applied to through Eagle. Credit to, I see David Mann in the audience. That task force has been hard at work. And as I sit here, I receive an email from Ryan Cotton that notes that the city of Ferrisburg voted tonight to put the requested $7,500 into their next budget as well. So that puts the task force up to $82,500 for this intended work, which again would not be possible without the work of the members of this task force, which is truly remarkable. Similar situation with the Chispa repairs at $15,000, fully funded, without individuals like Ken Formsma, again assisting with not only the scope of work but writing the grant. None of this is, again, possible without their additional capacity. Next, highlighting the diesel plant effort, just wanted to offer some clarification because a number of terms have been used relatively interchangeably. As we've clarified this with the attorney, The March 20th date was the extension to the due diligence period. That was successfully met by the developer. They had requested an extension roughly 60 days ago, to which you extended. That was in order for them to receive final word back from Eagle, to which they have now done. They expected they might have gotten it a little sooner, but they did not, but they still were within this March 20th timeframe. So that objective is complete. So as per the buy-sell agreement, their closing deadline will be 30 days upon all contingencies of Section 4 being satisfied, and that is the completion of the vacation of the right-of-way, which will be at your April 10th meeting. We are working with the developer ideally to have that, and the title company to have that closing scheduled that same week if possible. We will also release a press release when that's, when that closing is scheduled, so that you as well as the public are up to speed. Lastly, at the previous BLP meeting last week, they agreed and were in a consensus to pursue a joint meeting with City Council and work towards setting an agenda for that. We are, given both of your schedules in April, a little pushed out to roughly that last week. I think the date offered to us at this point was the 26th, possibly at 6 p.m. Wanted to gauge your schedules and see if you were able to accommodate that, or we could offer other possibilities.
April's a busy month.
It is. And I highlighted in blue your other meetings. We have the two back-to-back council meetings as well as the budget work session. And for those of you attending CapCon on the 18th and 19th, so that pushed us pretty well into that last week.
Feedback?
Yeah, I can make it work.
Okay.
Okay.
Everybody?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Come on. Is it gonna be here, Ashley?
Location to be determined.
Location to be
Still
determined.
confirming with all of the BLP board members that this date will work for them as well.
Okay, I assume that Ashley and I will be working with Dave and Mike Westbrook to set up an agenda. So if there is any topic that any of you would like to propose for the agenda, could you please send it to me?
I guess when we discussed this meeting with them, I thought we said we just wanted to talk the first meeting about the relation, how, sort of, without getting into it, because I think you and Chairman Westbrook said they couldn't get to agreement on the agenda, so I thought we agreed not to talk about all the fiery things, that we would just get together and talk about working relationship or rules or whatever. And so anyway, I want to throw that out there because I don't want this to go away because we couldn't get agreement to an agenda.
I'm with you on that, Karen, but the first words out of the BLP's mouth was what do we want to put on the agenda? What do we want to talk about? They're interested in a fixed agenda. So, if you got topics for the agenda, please send them to me. If I can figure out a way to make it a more general meeting, I will. But I'm going to tell you that the feedback from the BLP was we want to stick with the agenda format. So I don't think the meeting will go away, but it may mean what we talk about is is carved in stone. Maria, have you
I
got
was just
something
going
for
to
us?
say, we still legally need to have an agenda.
Right.
Now, you
That's
can
right.
put in broader discussion item topics.
Yes.
So you can have multiple broader topics if you think that would help focus the meeting some more, but that's up to you
Right.
guys, but we
It's
still
up
have
to
to have
us
it.
and the BLP because it's a joint meeting. And so they have some influence on that as well, is all I'm saying. So they asked about an agenda, and I'm going to meet to talk to them about that with Ashley. I assume that there'll be some flexibility in that, but if there's something specific, if we're going to have an agenda and there's something specific you're interested in talking about, I would appreciate knowing about it in advance. That's
No,
all I'm
I
saying.
would just urge you, with the, in the spirit of when we talked about this, to keep it simple and one topic about how we want to work together going forward, just sort of keeping it simple. rather than getting bogged down as we have for the past year, not agreeing to an agenda in the meantime. So I'm going to throw that out as because that's my recollection of our discussion here. When we
But
talked about
Karen, you
this.
do understand that this is a bilateral discussion. So that may be what this group would prefer, but it isn't necessarily what that group would consent to. I will do the best I can to work toward that goal.
Okay, yeah, I'm in agreement. My understanding of the BLP's meeting is that's what those folks agreed to as well. So we'll see what kind of comes up with the agenda. It's just that that's not an open discussion behind the scenes. So in the interest of transparency, I just wanted to say we didn't want much. It's not like we were demanding to meet on a whole lot of topics. It's just about how we work together kind of going forward. At least my recollection was that, so that's all.
Then please send me that on a piece of paper that says what you would like to talk about. That's all I'm asking for. Thank you.
Can I ask one more question? As far as the diesel plant is concerned, no other contingencies besides the closure of the street?
Correct.
And you know why I'm asking? It's
Yep.
Because I sat in the EDC meeting and they brought up the whole brownfield plan and so forth, and I just want to make sure that that's not going to hold this closing up.
Nope, after the 10th day under that strict time frame, that is not a contingency listed in the buy-sell as far as the financing goes.
Okay, thank you.
Think the meeting's adjourned. Nope, second call. Sorry. Second, didn't want to let David down. Hang on.
I'm sorry.
Wait a second. Second call to the audience. At this time, members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address and will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration, but will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to may call in at 616-935-3285. If it continues ringing, please stay on the line. We will take all callers. Chair recognizes David Mann.
David Mann, 515 Howard Avenue. The SEC was going after the brownfield discussion, Kevin, and we were advised in a very kind and considerate way that, hey, this ship may have already sailed. If we're going to make a big stink about something, we're going to do it down the line. And we all took that to heart from a very intelligent person and listened to that. I disagree a little bit with the BLP and the retrofitting that you were bringing up, Mr. Cummins. I believe there's great value in that. I believe that that's something that we should pursue, and I think that community members, whether it's electric or gas, would really benefit from. HDI, Lara, the price tag on that, I also would say, wow, that's a big number, I didn't know that. However, our meetings, and I sit on that committee as well, the transparency, the infographic, the amount of work that went into those meetings, this meeting looks a lot different than it did a year and a half ago. So maybe that's the price that we had to pay to regain that trust, and that cost could be associated to that lack of trust that was there. I'm fine. I was throwing bombs a year and a half ago, and Lara, I threw up something very simple and grassroots and said, hey, we're having an Earth Day event that some lovely ladies in this community have been putting on for a long time. And she said, well, I would love to be at that. So those presentations on her own dime, her own time, she's going to come out and put that infographic up and be there available for anybody who wants to come in. So that Earth Day event that happens annually here, I was part of when I worked for Home Depot and Bonnie Plants, and we're going to do the same things. It's fun, it's family oriented, but I would really highly recommend. We're going to have people from Woolley Adelgia, Larry. We're going to have scientists there. We're going to have your committee members there. We have food basket projects from Muskegon. We have all types of scientists. We have Nancy O'Neill gave $100 to have this wonderful film, Microplastic Madness, which is K-12 students, just a whole slew of environmental celebratory events, yet laced with opportunity for anybody that wants to inform and educate
all your citizens and get involved and activate and advocate. So,
And if anybody's listening, they could find information on this Earth Day event on the city website, true?
again, city website and/or their Facebook page.
Or their Facebook
Yes,
page?
and we highly recommend anybody who's listening up at this time of night too, if you have something that you want to offer, the fees are minimal. A nonprofit, it's $15 for a booth. We're still accepting applications for that. $30 for a profit business. So we have guys who sell hemp flooring and different things that are going to be there. Go.
Okay, the date is?
It's the 29th. It is a week after actual Earth Day. So we'll be doing events at the library, in Spring Lake, and a church, St. Jude's maybe, showings. But we're going to be doing things all week. And then the actual event is Saturday the 29th inside the community center because we usually struggle with weather that time of year. So we decided to go inside. So there'll be quite a bit of events. I highly suggest if you want to talk to your constituents and they have questions, if you can mark your calendar and show up, that'd be greatly appreciated. And last but not least, and I know I'm over 3 minutes, Velocity Bikes, that Jenny White young lady. So you're talking to a father who, for the last 2 years, has curated his daughter's summers. So we've gone to Utica for acrylics. We sail at Spring Lake. I take a great deal of pride in curating my daughter's summers, and that was the single best event that they went to in Holland. It's comprehensive. I was the dad that showed up with the bike that didn't work. And Jenny herself was there and said, will we have a bike for your daughter? I was that dad. My daughter was almost in tears. We've garnished a relationship where we're actually looking to build. Mr. P was one of the phys ed teachers that was sitting right there, and he does a comprehensive program at the school level that sets up ramps. And in this town that has a parking problem, we want children to ride bikes, and that's one way that parents and children, and we want to make it safe and teach them how to wrench on the bikes, and made it an event for my daughters, and they can't wait to do it again. So I'm really excited to see them come into Grand Haven, and she's a top-notch act, and has a good partnership with the Ottawa Parks Foundation, so it's top-notch. Thanks.
Thank you.
Jim Hagan, 400 Lake. I would just like to thank Eric for his presentation, and I'd like to thank the BLP for doing what they are on renewables. They're actually doing it. If we listen to DTE and Consumers Energy, we hear a lot of talk. BLP's way ahead of those guys, and I think they've got a great plan. I like the idea of being more audacious, and along those lines, I know you guys have seen it before, but Harbor Island, Sims site, the 8.3 acres, it can produce 4 gigawatt hours a year of energy. That's equivalent of what 600 residential customers use. And you look at the percentages, remember with 22%, well, 600 out of 5,000 is what? It's quite a bit, right? It's well over 10%. So keep that in mind. HDR needs to keep it in mind. I'm not sure what we've got on plan or on tap for redevelopment, but from what I see, it's some of these things are way out in the future. A solar site can be developed in probably about 18 months from the time you start to the time it's online. Let's think about it. It's a huge amount of energy. It's local. It's not buying RECs. It's real energy that's local. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Okay. I think this meeting's adjourned.